Hello and welcome to Tree of Statism. Today we will be talking about another ideology. The reason we want to discuss ideologies is because they affect the state. The ruling idea affects the rulers. However, why do ideologies become popular? One of the main reasons is that ideologies reflect reality. The more problems or the more central the problem that this ideology tries to solve, the more people may adopt it. However, if an ideology exists and it does not relate in any way to real problems in society, people will just abandon it. They will adopt a different ideology, one that is going to address their problems. Often, competing ideologies are ideologies that face the same reality from multiple directions. That is to say that each of them faces a different problem that exists at the same time. Sometimes they solve it from different angles, or they solve it in different ways because different groups want it to be solved in different ways. This series is going to be discussing a bunch of ideologies. This episode is going to be talking about one specifically. However, we want to talk about these ideologies in order to try to understand and try to estimate why it is these ideologies are popular, what are their advantages, and what are their disadvantages. Today we want to discuss two different ideologies that are too similar to warrant two different videos. The ideologies are liberalism and libertarianism. Both of them idealize freedom. They think that people should be allowed to do the things that they desire. They think that if there is no victim, this action should not be a crime. Unless you are harming someone, go for it. Also, you are not a victim of your own actions. That is to say, things like smoking that damage yourself should not be a crime because you're not harming anyone else. This ideology seems to be the result of a moral population. That is to say, that there is the core assumption that given freedom, people will act morally with this action. And this seems to be a result of good times and prosperity when people are concerned about the smaller things rather than the larger things. Also, these ideologies extend into anarchism when the government is corrupt or dysfunctional. However, they do not require you be an anarchist. However, anarchism may go hand in hand with them. You may be asking yourself, what is the difference? Libertarianism is more legally oriented. Liberalism is more socially oriented. That is to say that both groups will be happy if something is legal. They will be happy it is not forbidden. The question remains on public participation. Libertarians want the freedom to disassociate. That is to say, while you're allowed to do your thing, I don't want to participate in it. Liberals sometimes want forced participation or social immunity. That is to say, you have to join, or sometimes, well, you can't judge me for it. Okay, so some examples. Both are in favor of gay marriage because both think that the state should not regulate marriage in such a way. However, libertarians think that you should be able not to participate in the wedding or to refuse services to a gay wedding, especially for religious reasons. A bakery can refuse to bake a wedding cake for a same-sex couple, and a wedding hall should be able to refuse services for a wedding that is a gay marriage. Liberals would see this as discrimination. Just because you're legally allowed to do this, you are punishing people for doing this and making their choices. Liberals would want anti-discrimination laws to protect the LGBTs and minorities. Same thing would for the similar case of race mixing marriages. That is to say that a white person and a black person should be allowed to marry each other. Now, is this forced participation? One might argue, yes, you are forcing a wedding hall to participate, you are forcing a bakery to participate, and that is a source of argument between the two groups. Another example is sex work. Now, sex work is a general term for a lot of different occupations. Both want it to be legal. However, libertarians are okay with social stigmas, especially ones around not wanting to date or marry sex workers. Liberals are against treating someone differently for being a sex worker, and even more so against treating someone differently for having been a sex worker in their past. That is to say, a retired sex worker. Both ideologies support the LGBT right, including the rights of transgenders and their right to transition, both socially and through surgery. However, libertarians are opposed to compelled speech, that is to say, any legislation that forces you to use preferred pronouns. Libertarians think that you should be free to offend people, including by misgendering them. Also, there's dating discrimination. Uh, Dating discrimination is when people prefer people with certain body parts. And for example, a woman that has male body parts may be dumped for having the male body parts, or vice versa with a trans man who still has female body parts. Libertarians think it should be acceptable. Liberals tend to think it's discrimination against trans people, that it is transphobic. The next issue to discuss is positive rights versus negative rights. Negative rights are rights that the government can't stop you from exercising, whereas positive rights are rights that the government has to provide you in order for them to be met. A good example of negative rights is freedom of speech. Governments can stop you from speaking, but they do not have to provide you with a television show or with a newspaper column. A positive right, for example, is single-payer healthcare, which government pays for your healthcare and provides you with the right. In places where it's a negative right, the government does not interfere, but you still have to pay for it out of pocket. A difference between libertarians and liberals is that libertarians trend towards negative rights. They think that you should be allowed to do it, but that the government should not subsidize it. Liberals trend towards positive rights. They think that if you can't afford it, then you're not truly free to do it. If it costs too much, are you free to do it? A good example of this difference is, for example, trans people. Both groups support the rights of trans people to transition, including through surgery, but should these surgeries that cost tens of thousands of dollars be subsidized from tax money? Libertarians think not. Liberals think yes. The ideology leads to less friction between the state and individuals in the short run because the individuals can do what they want. The core issue with the two ideologies is that they extend the idea that you own yourself and the others shouldn't harm you to the fact that you own yourself and should be allowed to damage yourself. A lot of problems arise when individuals damage themselves, for example, with drugs, with alcohol, with bad relationships, with a bunch of other addictive substances and addictive behaviors, and they kind of damage the individual. As more and more individuals are damaged, society is damaged because society is made up of individuals. Think about it this way: the person who is drugged up and kind of retarded because of all the drugs he did can't go on to be a great soldier or a great musician or a great anything because he has damaged his capacity to do a lot of things. People who are on welfare because of bad behavior in the past or a bad situation they are in now don't really pay into welfare for the people who are there for inevitable reasons. The damaging of individuals in this way damages society. Another issue that is very, very problematic is that people don't always understand how their behavior, while is ignorable if only one person does it, is going to be a problem when millions of people do it, or most of society does it. For example, polygamy. If one man marries two women, there's not much of an issue. Assuming, of course, everyone agrees, the two wives agree that to be one of two wives. The issue is that if too many people do this, then there's going to be too many bachelor men. For every man with two wives, there's one man without a wife. For every man with four wives, there's three men without a single wife. If one man avoids conscription, that's not going to change the war. If 1 million people avoid conscription, the military is going to lose, or it's going to perform significantly less well. One's freedom stands against the well-being of the collective. People don't want to contribute, they want to receive. And the behaviors and the self-centered behaviors that come from liberalism, or that liberalism and libertarianism try to aid, try to make legal, lead to bad group results. All in all, libertarianism and liberalism seem to be a fight for individual rights over the group. This seems to be an imbalanced kind of viewpoint where only individual rights matter and the rest of the group is irrelevant because the group is made up of individuals. However, it is an extreme version where people kind of pretend like an individual is in an island and he is in no way related to any other individuals. Often we see communal structures in society. Communities, families, religious groups together in the same house of prayer, all of them share spaces and affect each other. If you like this video about this ideology, please tell us what other ideology you would like us to discuss. Maybe, just maybe, we might discuss it. If you like this video, please comment, upvote, and subscribe. If you want to help further, go and watch my other videos. And if you like them as well, do the same over there. Also, please share this video and any other video you might think people might take interest in. If you want to support me further, you can buy my book on Amazon, Ancapistan by Noah Goodman. Thank you for watching, and good night.